Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we're going to be continuing up the British heavy line, and we're up to tier 9, which is of course the Conqueror. Now this is the first time in the British heavy tank line that you will actually get a proper heavy tank gun. However, you won't get it until you are fully upgraded, unfortunately. But until then, you are basically driving a tier 9 Caernarvon. Yeah, essentially just a tier 9 Caernarvon. So I'm not going to go too much into tactics now to try and keep it down, well, the length of this bit down a little bit. But yeah, you basically play it in a similar style as you would a Caernarvon, so you stay back in support, moving up with the front line, but we'll go into that more over the replays. Now, let's have a quick look at the packages. Now, when you first unlock the the Conqueror, you will be able to put this package straight on as long as you unlock the Type B barrel on the Caernarvon, which I highly recommend, and I think I did say so in the video for it. Unlock the Type B barrel. Not a big difference between the Type A, but enough to make it worth it, and like I say, it does mean that you can just stick this package straight on, so using the Type B. And then you are literally using a tier 9 Caernarvon. Once you've saved up enough to unlock this package, which includes the Conqueror's turret, the sort of the upgraded turret, you only have 2 on this, it will make this one free as well, because you also unlocked that engine on the Caernarvon. So basically you end up onto this package, so you can skip through it fairly quickly. And if you've been up to the Centurion 7.1 in the medium tank package, you will have unlocked the Rolls-Royce Griffin engine. So as soon as you unlock this pack, not only will this one be free, that one will be as well. So, like I say, going down the British medium tank line makes this line a lot less painful. And then all you have to do is grind out for the 120mm L1A1 gun. And it does sound quite simple, but it is, really. Like I say, stick that one straight on. As soon as you unlock that, that becomes available. And if you've been through the Centurion 7.1, that will also be available at the same time. So it is literally then just grinding out whatever XP it is for this, and then you're just grinding out for whichever tier 10 you want to go for first. So, 20 pounder Type B barrel. Well, you know what it is. You've been using it on the Caernarvon through there. 9.23 rounds a minute. I think that is about the same as it is on the Caernarvon, possibly. Aiming time and accuracy as well. You are using the smaller 750 engine, so it does feel a little bit sluggish. You then go up to 810 with the Meteor M10, finally ending up with 950 horsepower with the Rolls-Royce Griffin, but with the L1A1 it will slow you down ever so slightly on your power to weight ratio, but not a great deal. When you do get the upgraded turret, your rate of fire goes up to 10 and your aiming time reduces to 1.7 seconds. And I think you do, yeah, you lose a couple of degrees of turret traverse, but oh no, view range is the same as well. Now I think, let's have a look. Hull traverse does go up from 24 to 26, and that's really only your other main change. Your engine sizes, like I say, you'll be working with this one, the 750, and then depending on which other lines you've been through, you'll then either be working with the 810 or the fully upgraded 950 until you get the 120mm L1A1 gun. Now this is the one that you want. This is a proper heavy tank gun. Your aiming time does go up again to 1.9 seconds, and your accuracy gets ever so slightly worse from 0.32 to 0.33, but it's hardly noticeable. Same with the aim time, really. Your rate of fire does drop from 10 to 5.71, but your penetration goes up to 259, and your damage nearly doubles to 400, and 326 for your premium rounds, and 400 damage, and you get some pretty nice HE rounds on this. They are actually a form of HESH, so you get 120mm of penetration with a nice 515 damage. Now, 120mm doesn't sound too much, but there's plenty of tanks at tier, well, because you're going to see tier 7s, you're going to see 8s, 9s, and 10s. But, you know, there's a couple of tier 9 and 10 medium tanks that you could pen with 120 quite easily, tier 8s, definitely from the side and the rear. And with it being a high explosive round, you know, if you do pen, there's a good chance you're going to damage a lot of modules as well. Supplies wise, I'm not going to go through the cost for the 20 pounder because I did all that in the the Caernarvon review. But for your 120mm, you're looking at 1,060 for your armor piercing, 4,400 for your, well, the APDS in this, which is armor piercing and discarding Sabo, which were actually better than I think than the APCR rounds. And then it's 1200 for your Hesh rounds, which is well, there's a little bit more than your armor piercing, but like I say, they do have good pen on those. With a decent amount of damage. Now, equipment wise, at the moment I've got a wet ammo rack, and the reason for that is because obviously the ammo rack is in the front of the hull like it is on the Caernarvon. I've got a vertical stabilizer and I've got a gun rammer. If you get safe stowage, or when you get safe stowage on your crew, really you should have it on there by now. You could possibly drop the ammo rack, and you know, there's an argument for vents. Personally, I would possibly go for coated optics though, to really make use of that 400 meter view range and your supporting role, which is essentially what you are. You're not a brawler, you don't have the hull armor for it, but the upgraded turret, you get 198 on the Action 10 turret, and again you'll be used to that. You get 254 on the front of this, but very, very weedy sides of only 89, and you know, you can be forgiven for thinking, well, it's just the same as the 215B turrets, but it's not. There are slight differences. As you can see, it does look slightly different, and that gets 152mm on the side. You only get 89, but it's not all bad news, as we'll see in the armor viewer in a moment. Now, crew skills. The crew I've got in at the moment are not my original Conqueror crew, they're actually my Chieftain. This is one that's going to be my Bulldog, and, you know, I don't know, maybe something else if I decide to rebuy any tanks. It's not a bad crew really for it, but I probably wouldn't say that you need clutch braking, because like I say, you're not a brawler. So although that will come in handy at some point, it's one that I would put on later. I would say something like this is probably what you want to have, and hopefully you're going to have something similar to it by the time you get here. So you definitely want safe stowage. That's just a given on anything from the Caernarvon upwards in that line. Brothers in Arms, track repair, repairs, Sixth Sense. I've also got pain tolerance as well, because your hull isn't great, so if you do get penned, sometimes your crew does get knocked out, so it's useful to have on there. But I would say something like that with the situational awareness as well, to take advantage of your very, very good view range. So that's probably what I should say for the skill wise. And again, you know, I've been through these sort of with the Caernarvon, and you're probably going to be using the same crew. Now, moving along, I don't want to forget anything, I don't think so. So, you do start off with the smaller engines. It does feel a little bit sluggish, and again, you're going to be used to that from the Caernarvon. They are very similar tanks, because the Caernarvon never went into production, they're only 21 made, and this basically evolved from it, because most of those vehicles were then turned into Conquerors, of which I think there are about 180 odd made, it said. But you end up with a 14.58 power to weight ratio with your upgraded engine, and as I said in the modules, depending on which lines you've been through, it's not going to take you long to get there. You know, you're probably going to have an 800 horsepower engine, which I think is about a 13 power to weight ratio, something like that roughly, if I remember rightly. You get a forward top speed of 34.3 kilometers an hour, which I think is the same or very, very similar to the Caernarvon. Reverse of 12, but you do still get that high 20% chance of fire on the engine, which is there. Concealment, well, it's big, it's easy to spot, so it's 0.09 stationary and 0.04 on the move. But you do end up with 1,950 hit points, which I feel is, I don't know if that's kind of low for the tier. I've not really got any other tier 9 heavies to look at while I'm here. Just quickly, what else have I got? Oh, VK4502B, blah blah blah. Oh, 1950, so yeah, not too bad. Oh, I have got some other tier 9s, but I'm not going to bother looking at those. So yeah, hit points are sort of feel fairly average. Now, gun depression, not as good as it is on the Caernarvon. Well, not with this turret anyway, and this gun. You actually end up with -7 on the Caernarvon. It is much better with the Centurion turret, but not with this, because it's not as tall. But get used to it, because this is the gun elevation and depression that you're going to end up with on the FV215B if you go for that one. But you do get better on the Chieftain. But, you know, I was just sort of going on the 215B because of the turret. But anyway, yeah, it's the same on the 215B. But, like I said before, great aiming time of 1.9 seconds. Not a bad reload of 10.5 seconds. Very good accuracy at 0.33. But it's just the elevation can be a bit iffy, and the gun depression isn't as good as you would expect it. But it just means you don't go for quite as steep a ridge lines, that's all. Now, where are we? Tracks. Again, same as they are on the Caernarvon, not bad terrain resistance when you fully upgraded at 1.1, 1.3 and 2.3. Turret on top. Radio is in the back left of the turret, just in the bustle. And then you've got ammo racks galore. The biggest one is at the front of the hull, which is why I say you want safe stowage, wet ammo rack, because that one does get damaged quite often, and it can get damaged sometimes if people are going through your track as well. I have had that, in fact, recently. And there's one in the left-hand side of the turret down at the bottom, but yeah, there's ammo racks all over the place inside. So if you're shooting at this thing, well, just about anywhere on the left-hand side, from about halfway back to the front of the tank, you've got a good chance of hitting an ammo rack. And on the back, it's sort of underneath the centre of the turret, sorry, on the right-hand side, underneath the centre of the turret. But that's the one that you've got to be careful of. If you get the front of a Caernarvon, try and go for that ammo rack. So lower right-hand side of the lower glacis as you're looking at it, or if you've got enough punch to get through the upper, just the right-hand side of the upper glacis. Crew members, just one driver down on his own in the hull, and then you've got the loader, gunner, and commander up in the turret. The commander under his cupola. That is another place to pen these from the front as well, is that commander's cupola. It's not easy, as you can see there, but it can be done. A bit of a patchwork of armour. I'm not going to show you the Centurion Action 10 turret because, again, been through that with the Caernarvon, so I'm just going to go through it with these. But you've got, well, on your hull, it's 130 on the front, 51 on the sides, and 38 on the rear, just like it is on the Caernarvon. And the turret, if I can remember, which I can't, is, let's have a look, 254 on the front, 89 on the sides, and 70 on the rear. So I did say it was a bit scary, but it's not too bad. As you can see, the 89 is actually just that bit of a strip, which is, well, at the back of the turret almost. It's only part of the side, really, so it's, like I say, not as scary as it first sounds. 120, plates on the side, like you had before on the Caernarvon again, top engine deck, floor of the hull, and a bit of a ring around the turret. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on here because it is very, very, well, the hull's identical to the Caernarvon. It's mainly the turret we want to be looking at. Tracks again, spaced armour. The hull, same as the Caernarvon, but this is where we get onto the turret. Look, you've got the whole top of the turret, so that angle bit can be overmatched with big enough caliber guns, but it's got to be a big caliber. I'm not sure if it's 31 or 50 millimeters thick. If it's 50, you'd need like a 152. If it's 31 millimeters, 120 mil would overmatch it. But without knowing the actual thickness, I can't give you a better answer than that, to be honest. And there's also bits on the rangefinder on the commander's cupola as well as the top of it as well. 51 to 70 is the whole back of the bustle, and the angle part on the cupola. Now again, it's got a very good angle to it, but you can pen that cupola. I have been penned through there, so that is a place to try and go for if one of these is hull down. Another place is just where that viewport is, just on the curve, just below the cupola as we're looking there. There's a bit of a flat bit behind it, and it's tricky, but you can hit it and pen that as well. Now this is the 89mm, and again, the reason I'm not covering the hull is because I have done on the Caernarvon, but the 89mm is just these patches on the side of the turret, which is pretty much towards the back of the turret, really. It sounds scary, only 89mm, but with it only just being that patch there, it's not too savage. But the rest of the turret, apart from the commander's cupola, which is 91 to 120, it is a bit of a patchwork. We've got 121 to 160, which is all these bits here, and then it just moves forwards 161 to 190 in a bit of a patchwork shape, because it is a bit of an odd shaped turret. 191 to 230, and then your 254 is basically the front of the turret and the gun mantle. Now that bit is 254 behind that viewport, but again, if you're in a tier 10 or a tier 9 with enough pen, you can punch through it because it is just flat. Otherwise though, turret cheeks, if they're not quite aiming straight at you, and you can get the turret cheeks. You see that bit that's now, is that orange possibly? I'm colourblind, so I'm not sure. The two little triangles just at the top of the turret, it bumps out a bit there, so like I say, if they're not quite pointing straight at you, try and go for the turret cheeks. There's a good chance you can get through there as well. But otherwise, if you can just get to the hull or the side of the turret, do so, because that's probably going to be your best bet. Now, I think that about covers it. It's gone on a bit longer, these tech tree ones normally do, but that should be it now. So let's get into the replays, see how it handles, and I'll try and give you some better tips and ideas of how to play it in there. Right, so here we are for the first replay, and it's a tier 10 match on El Haloof. And just before we get going, my performance in the Conqueror is consistent. Consistently average, I would say. But it's a weird one for me because it's also the tank that I've done some of my highest, and in fact I have actually had my highest damage game in the Conqueror. So it is a bit of an odd one for me. And I think it's one of those tanks, and I was talking about this with my wife yesterday, and it's another one of those tanks, a bit like Caernarvon. I either play too defensively or I play too aggressively, and for some reason with it I just seem to struggle to find a happy medium. And I don't know, I think the best way to describe this tank is possibly aggressive support. And you need to, I've got this sort of stigma in the back of my mind about it, that its hull is ridiculously weak, and yeah, it is, but that's mostly the sides and the rear. The front isn't as bad as, for some reason, I have in the back of my mind. The lower glacis needs to be hidden as much as possible, and even with a wet ammo rack and wet ammo rack and safe stowage, sorry, my ammo rack does get damaged in this, but because of those, it doesn't just pop my turret off, which it can have a tendency to do if you don't have safe stowage and a wet ammo rack. So do bear that in mind. But the upper glacis on this is still 130mm. I mean, what is it on the? I would say it's 120 on the Tiger 2. Although again, I could be getting that mixed up with the 45028. But anyway. It's 130mm upper glacis, and it's fairly well sloped, and you can take a few bounces off that, but you've got to learn what you can bounce from. And a good thing about that is if you've been grinding through the Caernarvon to this, you will have learned what you can bounce on your upper glacis, because the Caernarvon upper glacis, well, it's the same hull, so you've kind of got that same angling, maybe slightly more on this, but I think it's about the same. But like I say, from going through the Caernarvon into this, you'll have learnt what you can and can't bounce off your upper glacis. And again, if you are using that gun depression, it's not a lot at -7, but it does increase the angle on your upper plate as well, so that can help. You can side scrape in these. It's not easy because you've got very thin side armour, but you can do it. But again, I just wanted to really sort of use these ones because they are very average games, and in a way kind of show you how you play it. I know how you should play it, but it's just, like I say, sometimes I find it difficult to do that. Now, with this one being a tier 10 match, I didn't want to go up to the corner. There was enough of the team going up there, which is why I stayed back a bit, just to try and cover in case anybody came through the middle and tried to get up into our cap. And is that a medium or a light tank? I think it's a medium. Bat chat down here with me. Just came down to support him because when he was against that STB1, I think he was about to, well, I think he might have been reloading at the time, so drop down, lend a hand, and now me and him are just basically working our way up the other side, and there's an M103 that stayed back basically to do what I was doing, but on the other side. Now there's a TD over there, and I think the bat chat can go and deal with him. I'm keeping an eye on that corner, and it's not going particularly well on the corner. The scores are even, but it just looks like we're basically losing it on that corner. Now I've taken a hit from the M103, a couple of hits. I'm waiting for him to pop out so I can take a shot and pull back. The bat chat's taken care of the TD, and now he's coming round on the M103, so I'm going to push up. But I didn't need to support him because he's, well, got an auto loader. So he took him out quite quickly. Now he's reloading. And I'm going to push up and towards the cap. Now I don't know if there's any more tanks up here. The enemy team seems to be pushing into our cap. The scores are still even, but it's not looking very good for us over there. And I think the bat chat's got the best idea by jumping into cap, because one, it puts pressure on the enemy, so they might make a mistake and the other guys in our team over there might be able to finish them off. Two, if they don't come back and interrupt us, we'll win. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? It's about getting the win. So jump into cap and hope in a way that, you know, I'm kind of hoping that something does come back so I can get a little bit more damage done, because I've not done a great deal in this match so far. And like I say, the performance in these games is sort of kind of consistently average. It will give you an idea of how to play this tank. Like I say, hide your lower glacis, play aggressive support, which is not be directly on the front line, you know, the first tanks there, but you want to be behind them, using a bit of cover, putting your shots in. This does work very well as long range support as well. I don't think you need to stay quite that far back, but it's a very accurate gun with a good aiming time, and, you know, good pen, so it can pen at distance and it can hit. That's the thing, it can reliably hit targets. But I came out of that one with just over 2,000 damage done, but it was enough to put me at the top of the table. With it being a tier 10 match, I got a little bit, obviously with me being a tier 9 you do get a little bit more XP, but then again I don't think I damaged any tier 10, so I was kind of surprised to come at the top of the table in that one. I didn't think my performance, well, I know my performance wasn't very good in it. But mentioning about high damage games, my highest one, I think I mentioned the other day, was about 6,200 damage in this. That's my highest damage altogether. I've had 4,500 games in it, I've had 5,000 damage games in it, but my averages in it are between 2,000 and 3,000 usually, or 2,000 and 3,500 in this. And again, like I say, it's because I sort of, I don't know, I've not, like I say, tried sort of, it's a either do one or the other, too aggressive, too defensive. But the other thing is that I don't really play in it. I've not really played in it at all, and I think this, for this sort of review, it's the first time I've been in it for a few months, and it is one of those tanks that you do need to spend a bit of time in to get used to it. And again, this is what I'm saying, if you've just been going through this line, you've gone through the Caernarvon, you've got into this, you're going to be used to how this plays, especially with the 20-pounder gun, because you're going to play it exactly like you would the Caernarvon. You're going to stay back a little bit, you're going to play that aggressive supporting role, moving up with the front line tanks. But just trying to, at all times, as much as you can, hide that lower glacis, and as much as you can, increase the angle on your upper by using as much of the gun depression as you can. But your turret, you know, if you can get a hold down, your turret can take a lot of punishment. But you do have to be careful with the turret cheeks, and a little bit with your commander's cupola. Not too bad, because even though it is quite big area-wise, at the front it's not very easy to hit because it's quite sloped as well. So it's not too bad. But with this one, basically the team had kind of, I was going to go over towards the eastern side of the map, and again use my gun depression, stay back a little bit, let other people spot, put the shots in, move up. But the majority of the team have lemming trained that way, so I've turned around to come back over here to try and lend a hand to, I think there's a couple of TDs, and there's a heavy. So that's why I've come back across this way. Now I've just got to try and get up to that TD and give him a bit of support. That's where I'm trying to work my way to. He is pushing through a bit more. He's seen me and this other heavy coming. I'm surprised, to be honest, that he carried pushing and didn't wait. That was a lucky shot on the Bulldog. I wasn't aiming in fully, so I was quite happy that that one hit. But yeah, I'd kind of waited a little bit before moving on. We weren't in a position to give him the support that he probably needed, and that's basically ended up in his death now. But then again, if more of the team had come this way in the first place, you know, he might still be alive. But it is what it is. He's down, that Bulldog's gone, and oh, IS-6. I managed to get a good hit through him, but he gets one into me in return. And that's what I mean, the IS-6 doesn't have brilliant penetration at 175. I don't know if he was using standard or premium ammo there, I didn't quite notice the trail. but I'm pretty sure it went through my lower glacis, and that's why I've just pulled back a bit, trying to use this ridge or this rise. It's a bit too much for my gun depression, but if I can just donk the shot into the floor, if I can just poke over this bit. Now he hit my gun then. I don't know if he was going for my lower glacis, but I was pulling back and he managed to hit my gun. Now if I can just use the fact that they're below me to just creep forwards and just poke over, hopefully they shouldn't be able to get any shots in at my lower glacis, and any shots they get at my upper should bounce. That's more like it. I'm actually aiming now and hitting, surprisingly. Now the Nameless, he's taken down the IS-6. Oh, that one was poorly aimed, but the IS-3 bounced off me as well, just clipped my side. Like I say, you can side scrape in these. It's not very easy because you've got very thin side armour, but you can do it. It does take a bit of practice though. And there was something else I was going to mention as well, and I can't think what it was now. I'm sure it'll come back to me. But that's the IS-3 and the IS-6 done, so we're going to move in down this way. Now the other thing to be careful of in these, and again same with the Caernarvon before, arty. Big engine deck, soft sides, arty do like to punish you as much as they can, so do bear that in mind when arty are in the game. Try and make yourself as sort of arty, not arty safe, but you know what I mean. Try and put yourself in a position where they're not going to be able to drop one on you, and that will kind of help. Now, most of the guys are over that side. The team that went over that way, they've not done too bad, which is, you know, you kind of expect that since most of the team went that way. And I've got a Tortoise here, but it does have good pen on this, and you know, it can stand up. The gun performs quite well in tier 10 matches as well as tier 9. But you do have to try and hide. Well, I know I keep saying it, but it is the most important thing. Hide your lower glacis on this. You can and you will bounce the odd shots off your upper, and again, you will learn what you can and can't bounce off your upper glacis. But it's your lower that's the problem. But you always need to try and put yourself in a position, and this is with any tank, you need to try and put yourself in a position to make your own luck, so to speak. Really, I just bounced off the side of a Nashorn. That's RNG. But yeah, it's sort of, you make your own luck. It's like back with the IS-3 and the IS-6. I could have tried to pop around the corner, but I didn't. I pulled back a little bit and got onto the ridge to try and utilise that with this tank. You've got to play to your tank's strengths and weaknesses. And because they were further down, I just crept forwards to try and just poke over and just expose the strongest part of my tank, you know, the turret. And it kind of seems like common sense. But a lot of people, especially newer players, don't do that sort of stuff. And it's that ability to put your tank, not to just find somewhere on the map that's good for your tank and stay there, but to be able to, wherever you are on the map, to be able to put your tank in the best position for it, if you get what I'm trying to say. So instead of just sitting there, you know, taking the shot, you know, with these guys, if they start coming around a bit more, I'd pull back and use that ridge behind me, this dip here with the riverbed. Pull back into it, go hold down into it. And that's the thing, you've got to try and put yourself in a position. If you know there's a tank coming a certain way, instead of just driving until you meet them and going head on with them, if you know they're coming that way and there's somewhere you can just sit, hold down and wait or whatever, you know, or in a good position for your tank and wait for them, do that instead of going to meet them head on. You know, that sort of stuff. But don't get into the, you know, don't get into the way of thinking with this like I've done, where I've sort of got it in the back of my mind that the hulls are ridiculously weak and, you know, I've got to be scared of everything. Try not to do that. That's something that I've got into, and I need to get out of that thinking. But the more you play in this, the more it'll just click. And I think if I'd have given it more time and sort of played in it for a couple of weeks, before doing the review. I probably would have had better clips to show you, so that's kind of on me, that one. But at least these will give you an idea of what it's capable of, what its gun performance is capable of as well, because like I say, this is the first time in that British heavy line that you're going to get a proper British, well, a proper heavy tank gun, and it is a pretty nice gun. Now I was wondering, we were going to go to Cap to see if we could draw this Tiger 2 back, so I didn't fancy chasing a Tiger 2 or trying to chase one all over this map in Thunderstorm with reduced view range, but luckily he was coming back anyway, so whether he was on his way back to just try and make a last stand, I don't know. But he turned up in the end. That was the best actual damage-wise match out of all of them that I did at 3,163, but it wasn't enough to get me to the top. The Borsig had a fantastic game, and the 75 looked like he probably either blocked a lot or spotted a lot, but I'm not sure. But well done to the Borsig. Very good game for you there. And that's really it. A couple of, you know, sort of screenshots coming up and what have you, but like I say, just aggressive support. Don't be on the front line, be just behind it. Try and put yourself in positions where you can hide your lower glacis as much as possible. Use your gun depression. And try and stay hull down as much as possible, but don't just find a spot and stick to it. Try and get yourself in that position wherever you are on the map. And that's about it, really. But yeah, that's it. I mean, you can use it in true support as well. But I find it works best in aggressive support, and you'll probably have your sort of better results. But there you go. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If anybody has any more questions, leave it in the comments, and I'll try and answer them as and when I can. But that's about it, really. So until later, take care of that, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.